Welcome to my presentation on the effect of declining hormones on health and well-being for individuals transitioning through the menopause. Hormonal changes that initiate the menopause. So we have our three sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and they all start to naturally decline, with estrogen being the sharpest of the decline. These changes create imbalance in the endocrine system and cue the body to become symptomatic. So symptoms include hot flushes, low mood, mood swings, low libido, fatigue and low energy. Digestive issues can arise, bloating, brain fog, and a decrease in confidence are just some on the list. Signaling systems within the body doesn't function as well, which affects organs. So things like menstrual cycle, reproductive health, bone health, heart health, cognitive function, metabolism, and aging are all impacted. So these changing and fluctuating hormones have an impact on insulin resistance, which is going to impact on weight gain, which is then going to impact on the risk of cardiovascular disease, higher levels of cortisol, and lower function for neurotransmitters. So, estrogen and its role within the female body. Let's start with cardiovascular and metabolic health. So, estrogen is responsible for fat storage and distribution and plays a really large role in weight gain. So, as these levels drop, our insulin sensitivity becomes higher, which then leads to that menopausal weight gain. As estrogen declines, there's a shift of subcutaneous fat to visceral fat, means more intra-abdominal fat. So cue the menopause weight gain right around that abdomen. Visceral fat is more metabolically active, which leads to increased inflammation and a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases. Estrogen is a natural protector of the cardiovascular system because of its anti-inflammatory properties. It improves lipid profile, it helps blood flow due to the widening of the blood vessels, and it protects against atherosclerosis. So as estrogen declines, so do all of these protective properties, which is going to put menopausal and postmenopausal women at much higher risk of cardiovascular disease. So, moving on to bone health, estrogen plays a role in bone modeling and reformation. So, it helps maintain the balance between the function of osteoclasts, breaking down and resorption of bone, and osteoblasts, building of new bone. So, estrogen reduces the rate at which bone is lost, which maintains the bone density. So, as the estrogen declines, this balance outpaces each other and leads to a higher risk of osteopenia and osteoporosis. So, fractures are then high risk factors, especially in the hip and the spine. Moving on to our cognitive function and mental health now. Estrogen is responsible for brain function and emotional regulation. So things like memory, perception, learning, attention, and decision making will be impacted as that estrogen declines. And also our mental health, how we feel and how we behave is also going to be impacted by that decline. Estrogen carries protective effects on the brain and contributes to higher production and release of neurotransmitters. So, our neurotransmitters contribute to a stable state of mental health, emotional, and psychological well-being. So, again, as this estrogen declines, symptoms such as brain fog, less mental clarity, difficulty conversing with others, and memory issues may arise. These symptoms can all lead to a lack of confidence and, in turn, poorer mental health. There's also a higher risk of cognitive decline and disease as estrogen falls, so higher risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, depression, anxiety, and stress. So finally, our pelvic and urinary health. Estrogen maintains integrity and the strength of the pelvic floor tissues and structure. So again, as this hormone starts to decline, we can see weaker ligaments, tendons, and muscles, which is going to impact the pelvic floor structure and the overall pelvic health. So that's going to leave menopausal women open to risks such as prolapse and discomfort in the symptoms that they start to experience. Estrogen also protects the health of the urinary tract linings and the vagina. So without normal levels of estrogen, there's much more risk of harmful bacteria impacting on that vaginal health. So I've just attached this image here of the genitourinary syndrome of menopause symptoms, but other symptoms that might go alongside this is lack of lubrication, itching, and general discomfort. So how can everyday activity and exercise help women through the menopause transition? So types of activity that are going to help moderate the effects is HIIT training, strength training, combined workouts, mindful practices such as yoga, Pilates, breathing techniques, and finally our NEAT. activities. So our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this can be things that we do daily in our everyday lives, walking, gardening, taking the stairs where possible, standing rather than sitting. So things like that. So all of these approaches are going to help with strengthening the body. Muscles are going to be stronger, so they're going to support structures like the pelvic floor and our skeletal structure. So the better our posture and gait is, the less the lower the risk is to a fall, which means the lower the risk for a fracture. So resistance training is also going to increase the production of the growth hormone IGF-1. This improves muscle mass, contributes to better quality of bone and bone density, and it plays a role in collagen synthesis. Cardiovascular work, such as HIIT training, promotes better body fat reduction. It improves metabolic rate and the profile. This type of training has also been shown to elevate brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which helps to support normal cognitive function. So our mindful practices such as yoga, Pilates, and breathing technique are all going to help lower cortisol, which is going to have a positive impact on our cardiovascular and mental health. So as stress levels reduce and blood pressure reduces, menopausal women will definitely reap the benefits. And these mindful practices are also going to promote better sleep, strengthen and stabilize the muscles of the pelvic floor. So currently the ACSM guidelines recommend 150 minutes of vigorous activity. So 2 to 3 days of resistance training, flexibility and functional training per week. So you can see that the overall aim is to move as much as possible in either a structured way or in our everyday living activities. And that's going to promote better blood flow, improved mood, a much stronger support system with regards to our skeletal system, and overall health and well-being. So nutrition to support the menopause. So research found that the Mediterranean diet is the best fit when transitioning through the menopause. It's a really nutrient-dense lifestyle with high protein, whole grains, and healthy fats. And these healthy fats, such as olive oil, nuts, and seeds, have a link to better bone health. Studies have also shown that this diet is linked to a lower risk of fractures. With regards to fats, mono and polyunsaturated fats, so things such as avocados, fatty fish, and plant-based foods, there's also been shown to be a link in the reduction of cardiovascular disease and an influence in bone turnover. So I've also listed that it can improve lipid levels and profile, better mortality rates, and improved hip to waist ratio. So this is all going to help with keeping that weight gain down and contributing to a better heart health. So we can also see here it helps with mental health and supports brain health. So it can slow cognitive decline and it reduces inflammation to the brain. So that has links to helping relieve symptoms of depression and anxiety. So overall, this diet should be adapted as a lifestyle change and not a diet to lose weight rapidly. So fast weight loss definitely should be avoided through the menopause transition and generally through any lifestyle, as it can impact on bone mineral density and fat-free mass, which overall is not going to help with that menopause transition. It's also going to impact on mental health, as an unrealistic and an unsustainable diet can lead to feelings of struggle, failure, and anxiety around food. So within the Mediterranean diet, there are some important micronutrients to think about, but these should be incorporated into any type of lifestyle that you decide to take on. So there's the omega-3s. Examples can be salmon, walnuts, flax, and chia seeds. These are really important as they come with anti-inflammatory properties. So great for tissue health and repair. So that's going to help contribute towards our pelvic health, and it's going to reduce bladder irritation. Omega-3s support mental health and cognitive function. And omega-3s also support heart health and weight management. So vitamin D, next up, things like labeled mushrooms, red meat and oily fish are absolutely crucial for bone health. They're linked to better cognitive function and lower risk of Alzheimer's. And it's also associated with better muscle function. But it is really important to note that vitamin D and calcium do go hand in hand for optimum results. So down the bottom, we have fiber. So our soluble fiber examples, oats, beans, lentils, and fruits, and our insoluble fiber, vegetables, whole grains, and seeds. So these are essential for gut health. The gut-brain axis basically means happy gut equals happy brain. Fiber is also key for keeping blood sugars stable. So that's going to bring better weight management, reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. It's also going to bring stabler blood sugars for better mental health, as it's going to stop those big crashes happening, which can set off those mood swings. It's also great for pelvic floor health. Happier gut equals less pressure on those pelvic muscles. And then finally, over here, I've made a nod to hydration. It's just key to all-round function. Hydration supports a healthier brain. It's a healthier pelvic floor, happier urinary system, crucial for heart health, and it supports that bone health. So let's not forget about these micronutrients as well. So these are just a nod and a shout out to the important micronutrients for the menopause transition. So these are really important for sleep, heart health, bone health, cognitive function, mental health, and hormonal balance overall. So generally, as a lifestyle, changes should be implemented. Not as a strict diet or a schedule. It should be a transitional thing as you go through the menopausal transition. So a good nutrition should be well-rounded approach of macro and micronutrients and hydration. I have listed therapy and HRT, but just to note with a client, I would pass them on to a GP for that referral. But talking therapies like CBT can be really, really helpful for more positive mental health. HRT, obviously great for maintaining those hormone levels where possible and trying to subside those symptoms that we can all suffer with in the menopausal transition. So keeping social is going to keep mental health and cognitive function in top condition. Avoiding certain foods and substances, so for example, caffeine, alcohol, no smoking, try and avoid artificial sweeteners, high fat diet, so avoiding those high saturated and trans fats and avoiding those fizzy drinks, as these can all heighten and worsen the menopause symptoms. Finally, quality sleep, that's going to help with all-round health. It's crucial as repair happens when we are sleeping. And finally, the variety of exercise and mindfulness techniques are going to be really beneficial to physical and mental changes that are experienced in the menopause. Thank you.